This arc is really starting to pick up, man. Oda is on a streak. I love chapter 1139, and you'll see why at the end of the video, but if you don't want to be spoiled, then do not watch further. So we're back with Luffy's group in the castle, and they're still looking for the key to Loki's chains. Road says that the only people who would really know where the key is are the elders, and Luffy's like, oh, let's just go ask the sword guy. And Road's like, no, he would never help us with this. Zoro reminds Luffy that they still don't know if they're gonna let him go yet, and Luffy's like, that's no fun. But then Nami tells them to come where she is. This room is recognized to be the throne room. Road looks pretty nervous for some reason. And the throne room has been totally torn apart. Clearly a huge fight has happened here. You can even see some claw marks, so this could be an indication of what Loki's devil fruit is. It's definitely a very powerful Zoan if this is from him. But what they notice is the mark on the ground, the summoning circle that the Holy Knights just used to get there. And Road recognizes this. He says it looks like a magic circle. Apparently they use them to summon demons in some countries. So this establishes a direct link between the summoning circles that the Holy Knights and the Gorosei use and the ones that those people used in the time skip where Brook appeared. And Road's like, what's something like this doing in the throne room? Luffy, being the moron that he is, thinks to himself, I might have seen something like this before. Yeah, bro, you saw 5 people come out of these circles. They were all monstrosities. How does he not remember this? Then someone calls Luffy's name. And Road thinks, oh, is that a demon? And he gets all scared. They go on to say, I've been wanting to meet you. And this is when Road really starts freaking out. He's convinced it's a demon and he starts panicking. Then an axe gets thrown at Rodo and he throws Luffy and Nami into the air. Zoro catches Nami and Luffy notices that someone is sitting on the throne. And then we're finally introduced to this mysterious man who's been lurking around Elbaf all this time. His name is Yasan. He's an ex-pirate and he lives in Elbaf. Road knows who he is. This is clearly the dude who was talking to Crocus like 400 chapters back in the story. He says he felt a strange haki coming from this place earlier. He doesn't feel it anymore, but he's glad he found Luffy's group. He says he's heard a lot of rumors about Luffy, that he defeated Kaido, and it makes him want to go back to Wano. Road explains that this man is Ripley's husband that she was describing. And Luffy's like, oh, he's the dad of the big pipsqueak. And Yasan finds that funny. He's like, oh, you met Colin and Ripley. Yeah, that boy has always been way too big for me to hold. He is 20 years old while Ripley is 80. She's older than him. And that's why he's like, marrying a giant doesn't make sense. I'm the only one getting old. And Nami's perplexed that a relationship like this even exists. But he goes on to say, love has no bounds. Mixed races throughout history have always existed, and he describes a few races that I found very interesting. I don't see a lot of people talking about this. I'm guessing Buccaneers could be hybrid human giants, so maybe Colin is one. And then we have the long legs, the long necks, of course. And then we have the Wotans, which is hybrid fishman giant. But what is the Dosun Dadas? What is that? You guys have to keep in mind, this could be huge right here. We still do not know what Teach's race is. They might have just dropped it right here. Zoro says, you seem important. Who are you? And he answers him with, I am the missionary of love. And Luffy's like, okay, this is going to be Sanji when he's old. Luffy tells Yasan that they're looking for the key to Loki, and Road's like, you should not just blurt out something like that. Luffy said, oh, okay, forget I said that. And Yasan's like, nah, it's too late now. He gets a kick out of that, though. He's like, oh, you guys are troublemakers. I love it. Nami doesn't like that he's hyping them up, and she's like, just keep it to yourself. And he tells her, rumors are made to be spread. But Yasan gets serious. He says, do you know what kind of man Loki is? If things go south, what will you do? Luffy, of course, says, I'll beat him to a pulp and lock him back up. But Yasan says the only person who was able to do that was Shanks. No one else could stop him. And he's really trying to warn Luffy here. He says, just keep in mind, the casualties could be very high. And Luffy just walks away. He's like, the key's not going to find itself. That old dude is going to talk for a while. And Nami says, that dude was trying to warn you. And Road apologizes for Luffy ignoring him, but Yasan loves this. It reminds him of something. We see this flashback of this pirate getting angry and saying, I'm sick of all your warnings. And it's revealed to be Roger butting heads with someone for pointing out the risk of a certain situation. This is when he tells Road to push the throne. Then we're back to the party being thrown, and Oimo Rakashi, I forget which one, is explaining to Usopp that there was 2 other monsters besides Roger on his crew, not just Rayleigh. And one time, Roger had to recover from something and he had to go to a hospital. But the hospital was surrounded by like hundreds of pirates, and this one man with 2 axes cut down all of these pirates. And after that, not a single tree was left standing around the hospital. And that's how he got the nickname the Mountain Eater. He rivaled Silver's Rayleigh, the right hand of the Pirate King, and he was known as the left hand of the Pirate King. The chamber behind the throne room was the treasury chamber, and Nami is so excited that Yasan let them go down here. Luffy and Nami are utterly amazed at this treasure room, and they realize that there's nothing in here, it's just empty chests and a key. Nami is of course not happy with that, but Yasan's like, thieves were gonna work their way into here at one point, it's an abandoned castle. But the key still remains because it's a prize that not even thieves would want. In other words, even the bad guys don't want Loki freed. Then we're shown the party's reaction to the information about the left hand of the Pirate King, that he's been living in Elbaf for 20 years. He's a legend who stood shoulder to shoulder to Rayleigh and Roger. And in the final panel, we get it revealed that this character is none other than Scopper Gaban, the left hand of the Pirate King. And he tells Luffy, if you want the key, you'll have to get it from me. So clearly Luffy is going to have to fight Gaban in the next chapter. This is so cool. Before I get to what you're all waiting for, I do want to address the ritual circle that was in the throne room. While Luffy is fighting Gaban next chapter, it is very likely that that third Holy Knight will be summoned during the fight, and maybe Gaban and Luffy will have to fight that Holy Knight together, and maybe fighting a Holy Knight will make him remember about that night at God Valley where the Holy Knights came and he fought against them. And maybe that in itself could trigger a God Valley flashback where Bogart is shown fighting. But that's not even what I'm most excited for when it comes to this chapter. I want you guys to keep in mind that Gaban has appeared in way less chapters than Bogart. He has barely made a mark on the story, okay? And Oda has brought him back in such a flashy way. Not only that, but he seems to be very strong. If some of these translations are true and he's equal to Roger and Rayleigh, imagine what that means for Garp's right hand. Keep in mind, the only 2 confirmed instances of Garp chasing Roger, Bogart was by his side both times. And if they're up against 3 Roger-level pirates, Bogart is going to have to pick up some slack. I mean, these are serious fights. I think I'm going to make a full video on why Bogart is going to come back in the present timeline of the story. Once I do that, the stocks are going to be closing real soon. I mean, you can still switch up, but you won't be an honorary Bogartian.